Hey, what's up? How's it? Aloha, it is me, Makani. Welcome to Culture Rise. I'm excited. Season 9 is here, which means I think you like us. If you do, continue to follow, listen. If you're listening on the podcast, we appreciate you for that. If you're watching on network TV, we love you for that. If you are watching on all our social media platforms, especially YouTube, hit the notification bell, subscribe, do all the things that validate my existence because I want to bring in amazing guests that not only I learn from, but hopefully you can as well get involved with the conversation. I'm excited because he is my first return guest from 9 seasons ago. He set the tone. He's my go-to when it comes to Hawaiian history, when it comes to politics, when it comes to his accolades are amazing. So watch the first episode because we left off talking about one of the many amazing things that you do. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, my classmates, my border mates, my very good friend, my brother, Dr. ʻUmi Perkins. How are you, brother?
Good. Ever since the last show, I've been trying to stay risen, you know.
Ruben coined that. Did you coin that? See? Look at that. Hashtag stay risen. We're going to have to bring that back. And that's what it's all about. Anything that has to do with culture and Hawaiian history and anything Hawaiian, you're always my go-to. We left off on that last one, which is season 1 or 2, I think. One of the many great things that you're doing is you're writing rewriting a Hawaiian history text. But I want to get to that eventually. But I want to ask you this question. Let's start right off. How important is it for not only Hawaiians but non-Hawaiians to understand Hawaiian history in your Mānoa?
Yeah, let's start with Hawaiians. It's almost a cliche at this point to say that you have to know where you've been to know where you're going. But right now, that's so important. We see the decisions that are made by leadership in this society, and you can kind of tell that they don't really know how we got here. Anybody really, it's not entirely their fault. Anybody who went to school before 1976 didn't have Hawaiian history even offered. Some places it's an elective, but often another problem is it's hard to get enough teachers to who really have the background to staff the schools. It is required in the DOE since the mid-'70s, but there's still something really missing. Part of it is that the text aspect. But
instead of saying how important is it for Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians, it's just important for everybody to understand not only Hawaiian history, but history in general. Because if you ask me right now, I couldn't even tell you. Anybody in this room, if we ask you about, and even not even Hawaiian history, but even U.S. history, I don't know. I got a guy. But obviously important. Now, when it comes to Hawaiian history, you and I were talking a little bit about you remember more than I do, but even going to high school, we had a cultural elective and no Hawaiian history, or did we? See, I'm terrible.
We had Hawaiian history. It was the baseball coach who taught it, right. Which is actually very typical. There was an article in Hulili Journal, which we could talk about.
Oh,
but,
yes.
The author talks about how his gym coach was the Hawaiian history teacher, and he would give you an A if you brought him a cheesecake.
Really?
Yeah, that's documented. Heck? Yeah. So, but it's kind of represents the the importance that's really placed on the subject.
And why do you think it was just because of the time? It's like, let's just find somebody to just here's a text and go teach these kids. Or is it like the same, like you just said today, there's not enough, you can't find the right people to teach history?
Yeah, there's some technical issues there that Hawaiian history is inside of social studies. So to become a social studies teacher, you have to know U.S. history and world history. And what are the chances that you're also going to know Hawaiian history and also be able to pass the praxis test? There's a kind of a catch-22 there. So what you get are people who are just sort of figuring it out, or they really put in the time, but we have average DOE teacher only lasts 5 years, so and then they quit. So So the time is often not even available. So people are sort of winging it.
If you're joining us right now, we're getting right into it. Not only Hawaiian history, there's a lot of things we're going to be covering today because Dr. Umi is here, and I like to just rack his brain for all the knowledge that's in there. This is what we do on Culturized.
For all your money needs, Hawaiian Financial Federal Credit Union is here for you. Visit hificu.com. Bringing you what matters. Viewers can receive the Star Advertiser Digital Full Access subscription for $9.95 per month. Go to staradvertiser.com and click on subscribe. Use the code AHAITHING.
Hey, what's up? How's it? Aloha. Welcome back to Culturized. It is me, Makani, sitting with my good friend, Dr. Umi Perkins, PhD, all these accolades. I always like to use accolades. You're my brother, you're my friend. But currently, just to let people know, you teach everywhere. You're Kamehameha School, HPU. Where else are you at?
UH
Mānoa. Highly sought after. There's so many things we can talk about, but right now we're talking about the importance of just understanding Hawaiian history. Now, those of you that are watching, think about when you were in high school. Think about, there's some that are going to be like, yes, I wanted to study Hawaiian history, but some of you is like, yeah, but it's important because not a lot of people understand the depth of it. Generally speaking, what is Hawaiian history? What is usually taught about Hawaiian history in schools?
So Hawaiian history is a very controversial topic. It
Really?
gets to the question of what is the status of Hawaii, right? Because we're talking about a former independent country. And when I teach the class, I show them 20 treaties with 20 countries. And so it's absolutely not, it's beyond question that Hawaii was a sovereign country. And then the question becomes, what happened? So one thing I do is I show them the first treaty, which is a treaty with Britain and France, and I say, so here's the birth certificate, where's the death certificate?
Oh.
That way it makes it very clear it's not my opinion,
sense, right.
It's sort of like, here's the record.
Mm-hmm.
And so people have these, they have these beliefs. A lot of your beliefs about countries and patriotism comes when you're in elementary school, and you're sort of pre-rational. That's what saying the Pledge of Allegiance is about. And so you bring that into adulthood, and then you get to the point where you cannot accept certain things about, let's say, the status of Hawaii.
That's so crazy. I thought about it just now, going that's true, because I always use it simple. We were raised in this modern Western world, and it almost seems foreign. That sensitivity of Hawaiian history. That's so crazy. Now, let's kind of jump ahead a bit. How do we change that? And I know you've been working on it for a while. This thought of rewriting the Hawaiian history book. How did that come about? Were we in high school? Did you think about that in high school?
No, not at all. How it happened was at Kamehameha, we used to, there's a bunch of reasons why we couldn't use the standard text. It was at the wrong level. It didn't have Hawaiian perspective, which we wanted to impart on all Hawaiian students.
Explain to those watching what you mean by Hawaiian perspective, because a lot of people are just like,
yeah,
what do you mean? It's Hawaiian history.
Yeah.
But you got to look at who authored it, right?
Right. So the simple answer is a Hawaiian wrote that source, but it gets way more theoretical than that. I think the quick answer is if you look at the Lilikala Kame'elehi was 4 metaphors. So Malama Aina, Ni'aupio, Aikapu, and Imihaku. And those become like a lens through which you look at everything. So the lens is like what you're looking through. It's not what you're looking at.
Oh.
So when you talk about theory, you're talking about the lens itself. So if you think about like a kaleidoscope,
Right.
You look in the kaleidoscope, you turn the kaleidoscope, and what you see changes, but what you're looking at didn't change, but you see it differently. And that's what Hawaiian perspective is.
So see, now it totally makes sense. So how do we change that within the educational system, which you came up with, which I think is brilliant? Where do you even start to change the Hawaiian history textbook?
So I'll tell you how it came.
Yeah.
The idea came to me. So to get away from the problem of the previous textbooks, we were using these Xerox copies of newer academic books, and so we had like a reading packet. And then I just thought, we had a presentation by legal department, and they said, copyright for education is really not that many words. It was a lot less than what we were using. And so I just thought one of my students is going to go to their uncle and say, hey, we're reading your book in our class. And they would say, oh, why aren't they buying it? This is Kamehameha Schools. But we'd have to buy 17 books. It wasn't practical.
Hold that thought real quick. I just want to remind people we are going into Hawaiian history, rewriting the Hawaiian history text with Dr. ʻUmi Perkins right here on Culturize. Don't go away.
See Dr. Oda at HEC Medical Clinic Honolulu Specialist in laser weight loss. You can see the change losing 1 to 2 inches instantly. Pacific Spray Wash is Oahu's #1 trusted exterior cleaning service. We deliver a spotless job for all your pressure washing, roof cleaning, house washing, and solar panel cleaning.
Hey, what's up? How's it? Aloha. Welcome back to Culturize. It is me, Makani, sitting with Dr. ʻUmi Perkins. We're left off talking about how do we change. So he's on this quest. I don't want to call it a quest. It is a goal to rewrite the history text, Hawaiian history text. And you continue where you left off. And how do we do that? And how did you come up with that whole concept?
Yeah, so basically I started the book so that we wouldn't get sued.
That's the perfect way to start.
And I thought, how hard can it be to just, because there were a lot of good sources coming out about each era, and I thought just sort of string those together. But it ended up being like a couple decades long project, and I had a sabbatical to work on it, but we're talking about the whole of Hawaiian history, and it actually, I realized slowly doing it that this really hasn't been done, meaning a general history of Hawaii written by a native Hawaiian since David Malo, actually.
Right.
I mean, Kamakau did it, but he wrote his as newspaper articles that were strung together a century after he died. So really, this is like a first or a second time ever kind of project. So I'm not so hard on myself now when I think about it that way.
But you think about it now. So from David Malo, Sammy, so you now have that huge chunk of history to cover. Right. Because, if we're studying Hawaiian history from 100 years ago, 100 years from now, people are going to pick up your book.
It was almost 200 years ago that most of what we think of as Hawaiian history happened after David Malo wrote that.
So what are the things we'd have to change when you come up with that text? I can't even fathom where you would start. What would the first chapter be? What would the sections be? What would see now?
So the first chapter is Hawaiian perspective, and then the second chapter is we start from the beginning. It's Kumalipo.
Wow.
It just so happens my mother's area of research was that, so I have some background. And then we go all the way, and the last thing I look at is Mauna Kea. I kind of see Mauna Kea as the last big event, because it's been hard in the 21st century to say what are those things that rise up to the level of history. Things like a Kakabil.
I was just going to ask you what makes Hawaiian history important. So you have to include all that. Now, do you have a team working with? Really?
No.
Just you.
Just me. I have an editor who works with me.
I see. I can't even. I know from high school he was always, just moving forward. But the fact that that's a lot of research, and putting it all together in a timeline that makes sense.
Well, we were talking about immersion, Hawaiian immersion before. I believe in immersion, and I immerse myself in this.
Man, how much of your day is spent? With your already busy day, how much of your day is spent thinking about that text and writing? And
it's a lot. It's hard to say, but I, even after work, I go on Facebook and I do my Hawaiian history for adults.
Might be a weird question. What's more difficult, getting your PhD or writing this text?
Well, that's a good question. They're so different. The level of writing is completely different. The text has taken longer, though.
Yeah, because I remember you saying when you got your PhD, there's not a lot of people that can complete that. You know, you credited being an athlete and all that stuff to it. So writing this text, I can't even imagine. How many years has it been already?
I started in 2006, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you didn't. Was the 2012 TED when was your TED talk about the text?
Yeah.
2012.
Yeah.
So from 2006, the conception, 2012. If you guys, maybe we'll put the link up for the TED talk so you can get a little bit more insight of what we're talking about. 2012, man, still. When is it complete already?
Okay, so we're on the chapter 8 of 10 second round edits, so we're really getting close now. Yeah.
Who is the text specifically going to be for? What level? High school level?
It's mostly high school, could be used by early college. Yeah.
Here's something totally out of the blue, and I just thought of it. What, in your opinion, what do you think is the average level of history that just the general population understands? Like me. Like high school level? Because I pretty much think...
No, not even high school level. I mean,
Really?
I think most people have a few anecdotal, just based on my experience.
Wow, so this is what we're going to give you guys a challenge to dive a little bit more into Hawaiian history. Go check out his TED Talk. But let's talk a little bit more. So we're talking about creating the text. Another thing I want to talk about, if we have time, is, okay, now that you're writing this history text, what does the future of Hawaii look like? Think about that. We're coming back on Culturized.
For all your money needs, Hawaiian Financial Federal Credit Union is here for you. Visit HIFICU.com. Long's Drugs is always here for Hawaii, providing your family with local favorites, accessible health and wellness services to keep you safe and healthy. Make Long's a part of your day.
Hey, what's up? How's it? Aloha. Welcome back to Culturized. Man, season 9, Dr. ʻUmi Perkins sitting in front of me. I love this because every time I'm with him, just around him, I feel smarter. Right? I do. So many accolades about you. I love bringing you on. You're my first return guest because we did leave off talking about, this rewriting of the Hawaiian history text and the fact that not just Hawaiians, but non-Hawaiians, everybody needs to understand that because so we're talking about Hawaii. So would your text just be in Hawaii? Or what are the chances of it crossing over to the continent and other places in the Americas or in America that teaches Hawaiian history?
Oh, no, I'd be pretty happy if maybe 40 or 50% of DOE schools adopted it. That would be pretty successful. I don't think we'll get 100 or close to that.
Have you already had those conversations with DOE?
Well, I was the the lead on writing the standards for the DOE. So the good part of that is I
still got the inside.
I know what they want the students to learn, so I make sure that's in the book.
So, so this is, to me, this is what I'm thinking. Text is complete. And you've got the inside. You already had conversations with DOE. Is there other academics that have to look at it as well and say, oh, no, I think it's good?
Okay, so the next project is Hawaiian history for adults. Ooh. That's I've already talked to the publisher about this, whether it's the same text just edited or a new text. I'd really like to write it more in the style of creative nonfiction, so that it's entertaining to read. I think the history is very, it kind of captures you. There's stories there are.
What would be the main parts? And I don't know if this is a makes sense question, but what would be the main parts of the text, the one for high school? Like, are there sections? Do you talk about, economics? Do you talk about, what kinds of things do you talk about? Historical events, obviously, right? But is there sections in it? I mean, I don't even know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Well, I have a background on land research, so would go deeper on that area.
Environment.
Because there's a lot of misconceptions around the land system in Hawaii, which
is another thing. We have a whole nother show we want to talk about because there's so much. Because right now, all these things are coming up with land, right? Kaka'ako and all these other places.
Zuckerberg.
I would definitely want to get into those things. So now this Hawaiian history book for adults, what would be the big difference? You talked about making it more creative, more fun for us to read. Huge difference between a high school level and adult level history book besides the making it creative.
I'm thinking about the adult book as a series of short stories.
Ooh.
Where each story has a main character. Usually it would be a monarch, and it would go through, and it would have the structure of a story. So like, rising action, set the stage, climax, and all of that.
See, I could totally do that. Could you guys do that? I could totally read a history book like that. Not just a book that just throws stuff at me, and by the time I get to the third page, I'm like, man, I gotta get to the first page. I just forgot what I read. Now, this text, rewriting how soon do you think it'll hit the schools? What years are we looking at? Next year, following 2 years?
If all goes well, a year from now, or 15 months.
Ooh, so Lono, the Kanaka kid, will get right into it.
Yeah,
I like that. Now we're gonna jump around because not only are you rewriting this Hawaiian history text, real quick, because I want to talk about the future of Hawaii. But what did you say? 20-something years in the making, a school. You guys got Kaiapuni. Can we talk about that real quick? What's?
Yeah, so two of my daughters went to Hawaiian immersion in Pearl City, and there was no place for them to really go after that. There's no immersion for secondary in the Ewa district. So a group of parents got together and made it happen.
I want to touch on that a little bit because that's brilliant. Again, his forward thinking. Dr. ʻUmi Perkins is sitting with me. Hang out for a little while more. I want you guys to jump over to the extended version on YouTube. We're going to be talking Hawaiian history, the future of Hawaii, Hawaiians and non-Hawaiians right here on Culturized. Hey, what's up? How's it? Aloha, welcome back to Culturized. You are getting the exclusive extended version. If you joined us on the network, we appreciate you for that. Listening in on audio on the podcast, once you get to a place where you can sit down and turn on the TV and the computer, do that for us. Notification bells, what are all the things that, just do the things that validate our existence. Season 9 just tells us you really love our guests that we bring on, and hopefully we're sharing a little bit of culture with you. If you want to comment down below, get involved with the conversation, let us know about Hawaiian history and what you think about it, and what Dr. ʻUmi Perkins is doing for this extended version. So we talked about rewriting Hawaiian history, the importance of not just Hawaiians or non-Hawaiians understanding it, but you're making it even more easier. That pigeon Tourette's, more easier. You're making it easier not only for high school kids to get into Hawaiian history, but also now an adult version of it. You got Kaiapuni, you guys, a hui of makua, of parents that got together. Because I thought about it too. Lono went to Punanaleo Waiʻanae. Between Waiʻanae and Anuenue at the time, Waiau, there was nothing in the Ewa Plain for immersion programs. And how long have you guys been working on that? Because I think that's brilliant.
Well, only about a year or 15 months. So it happened pretty quickly. So the leader of our hui is a woman named Andrea Diaz Machado, and she's very much someone who gets her objective done. And she kind of spearheaded the group, but it was all just parents. We had the head of the Waiau PTA.
Nice.
And we had very serious discussions with the DOE, let's put it that way. And there was a ruling called Clarabelle, which dealt with Lanai, that said that it was required to have immersion there. So if you have to have immersion on Lanai, you have to have it in Ewa.
That was a whole. It was. I was in that conversation, which was rough because my thing was, I said, yes, you have to have it, but you can't. It's difficult to get immersion teachers to Lanai, let alone any teacher, right? And that was the problem. But how far away is this? Because this is personal now. Because I'm trying to get Lono into.
Oh, it's opening in August.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so. What is the age that starts?
So it starts 7th grade.
7th grade all the way to...
It's going to add a grade a year.
I like it.
We've only figured out the middle school part. But the people in Ewa complex for DOE are now, that's their...
So which is another reason why whether any part of the DOE in Hawaii, they're even more important of understanding Hawaiian history, because now you're going to have kaiapunis like this and all these other immersion schools. Your thinking is amazing and brilliant. Now we teach all this Hawaiian history. I want to jump into your brain and your Mānoa and Ike on what is the future of Hawaii look like? Like, non-Hawaiians, Hawaiians, we got to go somewhere. What's the future? We hear the word sustainability all the time.
Yeah. So I think about the future in some categories like education, economics. Those are two big ones. And then, of course, governance. That's a very political question, but let's just stick with the first two. Education, Hawaii has not a very high college graduation rate. I think part of it's because we're islands. There are some islands where you literally can't get a bachelor's. So people kind of bash on Hawaii for that a little bit, but it's the geography. No. When we were in high school, you couldn't get a bachelor's on Maui, right?
That's true. That's right.
Lahainaluna had 5% attending
I know.
4-year colleges. So
that was me, you, and Larry Apollonia.
Shout out. But I think when you look at the University of Hawaiʻi, which is the big school, when they were founded in 1907, the speech at the founding said, this college, it's called College of Hawaii, is for the white community of this territory.
Really?
Yeah.
No way.
And it took them a very, very long time to start becoming what they say they are now, which is a Hawaiian place of learning.
Yeah.
Then if you look at the Mauna Kea thing, how Hawaiian is it, so that's why I've started to float the idea of an alternative Hawaiian school. African Americans have like 120 colleges, and I think we have the resources to do something like that with a different perspective.
So education is one piece of the future.
Yeah.
Is it looking good?
It's there's a lot of experiments that are like where our children go to school. Those didn't exist, 40 years ago. Economics is a pretty frustrating one.
Yeah, because obviously geography affects us, but what would we look forward to? I mean, the topic of tourism comes up, right, all the time.
Yeah, and that seems to be like at its peak and starting to go down. So we really have to think about what's the next big industry. Historically we had sandalwood, whaling, sugar, and tourism, and then secondary industries of pineapple and military spending. And those last two are not very sustainable, and so we have to think of what's the next thing. There's going to be a next thing. We wanted it to be high tech, but if you don't fund the research university properly, which is, if you read the news, that they're trying to defund the university, it's not gonna happen. Silicon Valley has Stanford and Berkeley to feed the workforce into it.
we have no farm leagues. We have no AAA farm, right? So what kinds of things would drive our economic force in Hawaii in the future, in your opinion?
The investment has to happen, the other frustrating thing is when they're paving over farmland, because you do want ag to be part of the mix. And I remember Ho'opili and Koa Ridge were approved in the same week, and now they're right in the process of clearing Ho'opili, like paving over farmland.
See, that bothers me, because I always take that back to when we were in high school and Coach Watson saying, hey, when you're hungry, you can't eat the house.
Yeah.
Right? We need farmland, and it's slowly going away.
Well, in Cuba, they grow a third of their vegetables in the city, like on the top of roofs and things like that. So there are ways to do it without big areas of
See, I always say that we should take the state capitol, all that grass and all that. So let's just make a farm around the state capitol, right? We could do it. Come on.
We should get rid of grass.
Let's call our Lahainaluna borders. Education, economics. What else are we looking at in the future of Hawaii?
Well, we have to think about the environment. I mean, we're living in this is the bad news part. We're living in the endangered species capital of the world, and I don't think we think about that most of the time. We should be thinking about that every day. things seem nice. It's green
Right.
here, but those are mostly invasive species. You have to go way up in the mountains to see natives. It's really habitat loss is that's one of the biggest problems globally. We're looking at a time when there's almost like no wild lands anywhere, because the conservation techniques they use of making like a national park, it's not actually big enough. It doesn't take a whole ecosystem, and so the outside development still encroaches on it. So that's a huge problem. We really have to change the way that we live. That's what it comes down to.
And I know, which today is so difficult. So we got education. Here's one. We'll slowly wrap this up, but a lot of people think, what of the future of Hawaii for not only Hawaiians but non-Hawaiians? So, I know right. I love the pause. Is like, oh, that got deep.
I didn't realize this until I saw this a couple years ago, but only 52% of people who live in Hawaii apparently were born here. So put Native Hawaiians to the side for a moment. Locals, we're looking at locals becoming a minority. And so there have been actually high-level discussions about keeping Hawaii.
Right.
And so they're very powerful and influential people in those discussions. My wife is in, and that's why I know. So we have to start thinking about ways of keeping our people here, whether they're Native Hawaiian or local, because we're pretty soon going to be just an annex of Southern California, and everybody's leaving California. Why would you want that?
No, that's bizarre to me. We don't mean to end on a drab note, but you got to think about these things. You know, we're such an instant society now. We live today, right? We got to think about the future of Hawaii. And Dr. ʻUmi Perkins is I mean, just in this realm, it gets so much deeper, but rewriting history, so knowing history, which is weird because the first thing you said, you know, it's cliche to say kawama mo, kawama hope, right? You need to know where you're from in order to know where you're going. But I think you're changing that in a way where, in modern terms, you're rewriting the history book. You're creating schools with other makua for the future of our keiki, and now you're also looking at how we have to look at the future of Hawaii, which is kind of crazy, right? Kind of crazy. Very important. All of this, you know, I'm going to bring you back because we can go off on all these things. So mahalo for making time again. Can we bring you back again and talk about more of these things? Umiverse, if you want to get a little bit more into just Hawaiian history, Hawaiian culture, politics, everything that in his brain. And before that, we got to thank Kapa Kava. Do you want some kava first thing in the morning before we head out of here?
Maybe.
We're going to have some kava. We're going to continue to talk story. This is Culturized.